Good afternoon. My name is Janet Justice, and I work in the Education and Events Department at FTD. I want to welcome you to our webinar titled Super Sales Skills, Tips to Boost Your Profits. Today, you will learn proven techniques to help you and your staff become more productive, efficient, and better sellers. Tim Huckabee, President of FloralStrategies, will be leading this informative webinar. Tim started working in a New York City flower shop in 1993, where he learned every aspect of the flower business. Realizing there was a need for sales and customer service education, he started FloralStrategies in 1997 to bring training to florists around the world. Tim is a frequent speaker at state conventions, as well as a regular columnist in Floral Management magazine with his column, CSI Flower Shop. Once Tim is finished with his presentation, we will open the webinar up for questions. If you have a question, simply type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen. We will take the questions in the order they are received. So without further ado, I would like to turn the call over to Tim to begin the webinar. Tim?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm excited to be here doing this second webinar. We did a session earlier today, and hopefully we've got some overlap. People from shops, maybe part of the group is on the earlier session, and the rest of the group is here now, so everybody in the store is going to be super educated by the time we're done. So as Janet said, we're going to hold our questions off until the end. But if I touch on something or something pops in your head that's really timely, go ahead and type in the question. They'll kind of give me a heads up, and we'll answer it. We've got enough leeway with the schedule today that we can get that into the mix. So I'm going to begin by building a little bit on Janet's intro of me. And this is a picture of the flower shop where I worked in New York. And I just want to tell you a little bit more about my background. I've been in the flower business, as they said, for a long time. Basically, what I did at the flower shop was I was answering the phones, I was waiting on customers, I was taking orders, doing everything short of design. And I was there for about 5 years. And during that time, I was talking to florists all the time, and I realized that there was this kind of unfulfilled need. People wanted more education, they wanted guidance, they want some structure to the way that they're dealing with customers. So that was the impetus for me to start my business. And when I started my business since I started my business in 1997, I've had the good fortune to be able to travel the world. I've worked with flower shops in about 45 states. I've worked all across Canada. I work in England and Ireland. I have flower shops in Australia that I work with. I work with big stores. I work with little mom and pops. I work with stores in urban areas. I work with stores that are out in suburbia. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because I want you to understand that this is going to work in your shop. Sometimes people think, oh, well, you don't know our store and you don't know our area. But I do. I've worked there. This is going to work for you. You just got to keep an open mind as we go through this and understand and recognize some of the things that you're doing, and then also think about how you can apply these new techniques and these new ideas to your store. So let's begin going through these slides. All right. First of all, what we're going to do is talk about the fact that realistically, you can expect, or any shop can expect, to make at least $100,000 extra by using the process that I teach. And let me explain what I mean by that. It's not that I'm going to teach you how to sell. I hate to sell. I'm a horrible salesperson. I'm a fantastic listener, and that's what we're going to talk about a lot today. But what I'm going to show you is that by and large, every flower shop in America is missing about 20 to 25% on every sale. I prove that every month in my column, Flower Shop CSI, where I call a flower shop, I give a scenario where I'm ready to spend a lot of money, and inevitably I'm undersold and underserved. Here's what I want you to think about for a minute. If you put aside weddings, put aside events, put aside any big family funerals, how many $150, $200 orders have you taken at your store in the past week? If you say 1 or 2, you probably should have taken 5. If you say none, you should have taken at least 2 or 3. The point is this. Those sales are happening. Those people are coming into your store. They're calling your store. You're just underselling them. So what should have been written up or put into your system as a $150 sale is being put in as a $75 sale. So that customer isn't getting the full potential that they should be spending. You, in turn, are losing money. So I know I'm going to come on with a lot of tough love in the early stages of this webinar, but just kind of sit tight. It'll all work out in the end. But essentially, I need to break a myth that exists in the industry, and that myth that I see and live and hear all the time is that collectively we think, oh, well, our staff is very friendly, we're very helpful, we're good to customers. A friendly staff does not mean good sales. Every single week I meet friendly people who undersell and underserve perpetually. We sell from our own pockets. We don't pay attention to customers. So that's what I want you to think. If you're friendly and if you're engaging with the customer, great, that's half the battle. You've done half of my job. But what we need to do is we need to listen better. We need to serve them better. We need to give them the opportunity to spend more when it's appropriate. One of the real cornerstones of my process that I have to say to people all the time is that the worst thing a customer is going to say no. I mean, if you think about it, there are only 2 days out of the year that customers ever hang up on you. And in my experience, because I'm not just doing the training, I'm also answering the phones. I will work at a flower shop at a busy holiday. The only time that they hang up on me is Valentine's Day, like the February 13th to 14th. And even then, it's only because they haven't ordered flowers in a year, or they're driving around in their car and they hear the advertisement on the radio from Pro Flowers for 300 roses for $7.99, and they think they're going to get that, so they're kind of startled and they hang up. But during the course of the year, think about it. If you tell me that you just found out that your best friend is getting married and you want to send a really special gift, and if I listen to you and I give you the opportunity to spend $150 or $200, if that's too much money, you're not going to hang up on me. You're not going to walk out of the store. You'll let me know. And then I'll take that in stride. We'll talk about a smaller design. We'll talk about a different arrangement. It's not a big deal, but I would say one of the first things you really need to start thinking about is that no is not bad. It's not a horrible thing when a customer says no. You can't take it personally. All they're saying is, no, I don't like that choice. I don't like that option. What are my other possibilities? But at the same time, start thinking or keep thinking about that big, fat, sweaty candy bar on the screen, because you can make that kind of money if you start to upgrade and improve your sales process. So our next slide is a very interesting cartoon. Any of you who have had me in your store within the past year or so have seen this cartoon. Any of you who have participated in the monthly webinars that my company produces, you've seen this cartoon. And I found it, I think it was back in 2009. And I love it. I think it's brilliant, and what I recommend that you do, since you're going to get all these files, the entire program is going to be available online for you afterwards. But what I recommend is that you take this cartoon in particular, print it, hang it up somewhere in your store where your staff can see it, hang it in the bathroom, hang it in the design area, hang it in the kitchen. Use this to help reinforce the ideas that we're going to talk about. So New Yorker magazine is famous for these kind of punchy, sarcastic cartoons. So when I saw this, I read it, I went past it, and then I backed up, and I thought, you know what? There's really a lot going on in this cartoon, and I studied it for a minute. So you read the caption, you giggle. So get past the caption and just look at the dynamics at play here. And here's what I see, and I'm sure that you can visualize this happening at your store. So the guy opened the door, came into the store, and if you look at the way the flowers and the plants are positioned, it probably wasn't a clear, straight shot to the counter. He probably had to weave around maybe some plants and buckets of flowers on the floor. Nevertheless, he saw a woman standing there, went right to the counter. Now take a look at the way he's standing. He's hunched over. It's more than just scoliosis. This guy is intimidated. He's actually frightened by this whole shopping experience. And it's not just his guilt from whatever he did wrong. It's really just the shopping experience. He's overwhelmed. So he's standing there in front of her. He's ready to do his thing, and he's got his hand on his wallet. He's going to take that wallet out, and he's going to probably spend whatever she tells him to spend. And I know sometimes people think, oh, well, that's just the dynamic of, a woman waiting on a man. Of course, he's going to do anything she says. I agree that men are basically plankton when it comes to ordering flowers. However, I don't buy into this whole idea of a man can help a woman easier or a woman can help a man easier or the age has anything to do with it. Quite honestly, when you come into the store, you are a customer. You're somebody who has a need that has to be fulfilled. All the rest is periphery. So let's study this a little bit more. So I think you'll agree with me that if or when she turns to her right and says, oh, aren't these pretty? These are calla lilies, and they're $12 a stem. He's going to say, okay, how many do I need? If she turns to her left and says, this is a triple spike phalaenopsis orchid, and it's $200, he's going to say, okay, wrap it up. No matter basically what she chooses, he's going to go with her suggestion. So here's what I need you to understand. There are 3 facts at play in virtually every sale. And we're going to talk about those in just a moment. They're going to be on the next slides. But these are the underpinnings of basically every sale. And if you understand these and you're aware of them and you position yourself to use them to your advantage, it helps everybody. It's going to make the shopping experience easier for the customer. You're going to end up with a bigger sale. And obviously, the owner of the store is going to be pleased with that. In terms of a bigger sale, I feel strongly that bigger is better, when it's appropriate. Because in my near 20 years in this business, I've never, ever, ever heard a customer complain to say, you know what, I'm really upset. That arrangement I ordered for my wife, I saw it. It's too big, too beautiful. No, it doesn't happen. What happens is you sell him a $40 basket, and you lead him to think it's going to be bigger than it is, and even though that basket is beautiful and it's delivered on time, he complains, and what he says is, gosh, it was so small. I thought it was going to be bigger. If somebody told me I needed to spend more, I would have. So take one last look at this cartoon. We're going to move forward, but I'm going to reference it quite a bit. All right, so I mentioned that there are these facts. So here's the first fact. The majority of customers don't know what they want. And what I mean is probably 90 to 95% of the customers that you tangle with have no clue. I mean, clearly they need flowers. That's why they called or they came in. And they may have gone online and looked at your website. He may usually send his wife yellow flowers and wants to know if you've got yellow roses. But beyond that, they really don't know what they want. They don't know the specific stem count. They don't know the design style. They don't know what they need to spend. With everything that we're talking about this afternoon, don't think about the exception, and don't let the exception dictate the rule. In other words, I still remember the pain-in-the-butt customers that would come into the store where I worked and would just torture me, and they would micromanage the sale, and they would want to know like what the pH acidity level was of the soil that the roses were grown in. They were real difficult, but they're the exception. They were just the few and the far between. The vast majority of the rest of them don't know what they want. So I use that to my advantage. I'm going to show you how you're going to do the same thing. The next point or fact is that when the customer calls, when the customer comes in, they're looking at you as the expert. They don't know if you started there yesterday. They don't know if you started there 10 years ago. They're immediately positioning themselves to listen to you. They're going to take your lead. They're going to follow your comments because they assume that you can tell them what they should spend, that you can tell them what flowers are in season, what flowers are going to look good together, what's the appropriate design style, what's the appropriate amount to spend. You've got all of that advantage, if you will. You've got all of that control over the sale. We just never exercise it. We'll talk more about that, how we tend to just ask a million questions, not listen to a customer, and treat every sale the same. And that doesn't help anybody. If anything, it just continues to drive customers to the grocery stores, to places like Pro Flowers. So by simply ramping up the kind of service that we're giving, you're going to make the shopping experience more memorable for customers. The silver lining is going to be that they're going to spend more. So the final fact pulls 1 and 2 together, and that is that I see this happen personally when I'm making sales, and the feedback that I get when the owners of the stores where I train send me emails and give me calls after my visit. I see this every single day, that customers basically will purchase what you recommend, provided, of course, it's appropriate, provided, of course, that it's within their budget. But if you have a customer who says, I really don't know what to send to my daughter, she just won a big award at work, I want to send something really special, you know that if you suggest $50, he's going to spend that. If you suggest $100, he's going to spend it. So what I want to help you to focus on is when to discern to suggest $100, when it's appropriate, and guide those customers toward the appropriate prices. So these are 3 facts that probably apply to, I'm going to say, 90 to 95% of the sales that we're dealing with. And what I find when I make my calls and when I visit flower shops is that all customers want to do is place an order. You know, she just found out she's going to become a grandma. His wife just had bunion surgery. All they want to do is place an order, but you don't let them. You torture them. You ask them a million questions. The kicker is you ask these questions, you don't even listen. That's what really is going to make my last 3 hairs fall out. I call flower shops, and I get asked this whole litany of questions. Everyone asks the same questions, and nobody listens to them. So again, I mean, I know who you are. I know who's listening to this. I would say as a blanket statement that very few, if any of you, would identify yourself as an aggressive salesperson. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I think it's good when somebody is once in a while. But by and large, we in flower shops don't like to sell. We don't like to be sold. We don't want to make a customer feel uncomfortable. And I agree with that 100% because that's the kind of service that I want to get as well as the kind that I want to give. But the point is this: what I really, really yearn for, not only when I'm ordering flowers, but when I'm doing any kind of business, when I'm in a restaurant, when I'm at an airport, at a rental car counter, I just want somebody to listen to me. I want somebody to acknowledge what my needs are, to make me feel special, to make me feel like I'm the only customer in the world for them at that point. That's what customers want. So we're going to go through a couple of questions. When I visit a shop, and I'm typically in about 3 retail stores every week. I mentioned all the states that I visited, and just to kind of put it into perspective, last week I was in Michigan. This week I'm in Illinois. Next week is Massachusetts. The week after is Florida. The week after is a blur at this point. I can't remember where it's going to be. But I'm in all these different states, all these different economies, all these different environments, and there are certain things that are always, always the same, and that is these questions that we ask. So what we're going to tackle this afternoon are 3 of the questions. There are anywhere from 5 to 7 that most every flower shop asks that really hurt sales and cost you customers. We're going to talk about 3 today, partly because of the time, but partly because we just want to give you a little bit to chew on and get started on thinking about how you deal with customers differently. So the first question, that of course gives everybody minor heart palpitations when they see it, is what's the occasion? And the truth is, I don't care. I don't give a crap why you're ordering flowers. That's a dumb question. It's counterproductive. It's a waste of breath. And I can hear you all getting a little excited out there. Let me explain why. Well, actually, rather than explain it, let me give you an example. This will make it even more obvious for you. Here's a typical scenario. Customer comes in your store, customer calls, and he says, hi, I want to order some flowers for my wife. So you say, okay, great, I can help you. And again, you're being friendly and upbeat, but I'm going to show you how that has nothing to do with giving good service, because this friendly person is going to give horrible service. So you say to him, sure, I can help you, sir. What's the occasion? And he says, well, it's my wife's birthday. So then you say, okay, well, we've got some beautiful roses. How about a dozen red roses? So what happens? Like we just spent 5 minutes talking about, that cartoon comes to life. You're the expert. You're going to make what you feel to be an appropriate suggestion, so he's going to buy it. So he's going to spend, let's say, $75 on those roses. So then you either walk over to the computer or you get your hands on the keyboard and you start getting some information. So you ask him, okay, what's your wife's name? Are we going to bring this to her at work or at home? And then you ask him, okay, what would you like to tell her on the card message? And here's what he says. Well, I hadn't thought about it. Let's just keep it short and sweet. Let's just say, happy 40th birthday. Can't wait for our trip to Paris. All my love, Mike. Now, in my opinion, you should be angry. You should be furious with yourself simply because you just gave him horrible service. You just sold him the $75 arrangement, but he just gave you a $200 card message. And yes, you could double back and say, oh, well, now that I know it's a 40th birthday, how about you send her this? But that's cheesy. If you do that to me, I would think you were trying to take advantage of the situation. So let's talk about a leaner, cleaner, more intelligent approach. And that is, don't ask this dumb question on the screen. Get it from the card message. 99 times out of 100, you're going to get the occasion from the card message. Beyond that, you're going to get lots of extra information. You're going to find out, are they celebrating a birthday or is this a milestone birthday? You're going to understand that this gift is coming from one person, or maybe this is coming from her 7 children. This is coming from an individual or the whole marketing department. So all of that should be factoring in to what you're going to suggest to the customer. So it's important that you not just type the card message, read the card message. And since I visit so many shops, obviously you're all using different technologies. And of all the major technologies out there, there's only one system that's written backward. All the others are written correctly, and that is that whether you're using your F keys, whether you're using the tab key, whether you're using the mouse, that the natural progression through the order is from delivery information to card message to the product. But time and again, you don't read the card message. Now you have to. Don't just type it, read it, and get prepared to make an appropriate suggestion. And at the same time, what you're doing is you're shrinking the time of the call. You're skinnying down the call because you're saying less, you're listening more. And the interesting thing that I hear all the time, either directly from customers when I'm taking an order or from the people that I've trained, is that once this entire approach that I teach at the store is applied, a customer will say at the end, what was your name again? Tim. Tim, thank you so much. That was so fast. That was so quick. That was so easy. So they can't necessarily put their finger on it, but they know something is different. And the basic shift is that we've stepped away from the tired, traditional, old-fashioned approach that most flower shops use of asking a million questions to just listening to the customer, just engaging them, getting into why they're sending flowers, positioning yourself as the expert, and helping them to shop appropriately. So here's another insane question. So somebody's calling a flower shop. You think they want flowers? Yeah. In all likelihood, they're probably going to want to order flowers. They're not ordering a pizza or asking if you can fix their transmission. So what's a typical response to this? Oh, what do you want to send? I don't know. What do you have? It's verbal ping pong. So now it gets worse. It gets even dumber. Now you sit there and you tell them everything in the store. You take a big deep breath and you say, we've got flowers and plants and silk flowers and fruit and gourmet baskets and dish gardens. And again, I'm giving you tough love, and I know that you're doing this with every good intention, and you're doing this with a smile on your voice, and your aim is to educate the customer. But you did the contrary. You overwhelmed him, because what does he do? He comes back and he asks, well, what do you like? What do you recommend? He makes the cartoon come to life. He's saying, you're on the other end of the phone, you're on the other side of the counter, you're the expert, you tell me. So in lieu of asking somebody, what do you want to send, there's a phrase that I teach that basically says, in not as many words, when you walked into the store, when you called here, if you had already decided or you already knew what you wanted to send, great, I'll type up your order. But if you don't know what you want to send, great, because I already know where it's going. I already know why it's going because I've read that card message. I know how many people this is representing, so I understand your relationship with the recipient, so I can make an appropriate, educated suggestion to you. That's essentially, in a very long-winded way, what I teach, and customers love it. And customers will often come back and say, yes, please, give me some guidance, give me some help, tell me what you think is appropriate. And then they've turned power back to you. They're literally saying, tell me what to buy, and I'm going to buy it. The third question, and then I'll pause for a second to see if we have any questions from some of you, because I realize for many people these questions are a radical departure. So I want to hear any feedback from you. The third ridiculous question, it's funny, everybody knows this one. How much do you want to spend? Typically when I'm at a store, what I do is I give this list to everybody as a blank piece of paper, and together we do it. And when I broach the subject of the fact that these are ridiculous questions, everybody like blurts out, how much do you want to spend? And it's kind of like smoking or drinking too much. You know it's bad for you, but we still do it. So people ask this, but I think that's partly because they don't know what the alternative is. And just think about this for a minute. Is there any other store that you deal with that ever asks you this question? I can't think of one. Some people have said a car dealership, maybe I could go with that, but I think they would still want to qualify you. They would want to find out, do you want new, do you want used, do you want two-door, do you want four-door? So asking somebody how much you want to spend is horrible. It's just silly and ridiculous because, number one, you're going to put a cap on what they're going to spend. So you shot yourself in the foot. Number two, the problem with that, and I don't know if you thought about it this way, it's going to make them feel uncomfortable. Because think about it. The only reason that she's standing in your store, the only reason that she called you is that she just found out that she's going to become a grandmother. So she's excited. She's maybe passing your store, and she decides somewhat spontaneously, you know what, I'm going to send my daughter some beautiful flowers to celebrate this amazing event. If one of the first things out of your mouth is how much you want to spend, she instantly stops thinking about her daughter, stops thinking about her first grandchild, and now she's got to pick a dollar amount. So she somewhat stumbles over her words and says, well, I don't know, $50, $60? You just made her feel awkward and uncomfortable. Stop it. Stop terrorizing customers. Stop abusing them. Start listening to them. Give them the kind of service that you would want, that you would find memorable. If you use that as your goal, it's all going to kind of gel. So as I said, there are at least 3 other questions that are completely ridiculous, waste a huge amount of time. When I come to your store to do the training, we'll uncover those. But let me just pause for a second to see if we have any questions. It seems to be none. So I've either insulted or mesmerized you. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I'm gonna keep going. Maybe you'll have more questions at the end. So, yep, that's Denny's. I talk a lot about food, although I did have a big healthy lunch here today. I talk a lot about food when I'm training because I feel very, very strongly that the restaurant business and the flower business are really first cousins. And there's a lot of good that we can get from Denny's besides the stuffed French toast. So I want to talk about that for a minute. Think about the way that a waiter deals with you in a restaurant. So if a waiter came to the table and said to you, hi, good afternoon, my name is Tim, I'm going to be your waiter, I want to tell you about our specials today. This afternoon, we're featuring 3 wonderful specials for lunch. We have a $10, a $13, and a $16. You'd probably laugh in his face. You'd probably say, okay, you told me how much they cost, but what are they? Is that octopus ice cream or is that a big fat hamburger? You don't know what they're offering. It's backward, but that's the way we sell to customers. Because think about it right now. If I called your store and if I said, I want to send something to my wife, she just got a big promotion at work, you'd say to me, oh, well, we can do something nice, 50, 60, 70. You sound like you're working the tables in Vegas. Can't do that. What a waiter would do is a waiter would say, well, this afternoon we have 3 specials. We have, and you go on to describe the wonderful chicken, the delicious salmon, the incredible pork chops. He would tell you how they're cooked in all likelihood, might mention the side dishes that they come with, and then the last thing that you would hear is the price. So think about it this way. If you love salmon and he has recommended or told you about this wonderful salmon dish, and let's say that's maybe about $3 or $4 more than you were planning on spending for lunch, if it sounds good, if you like salmon, you'll buy it. You'll literally instantly justify spending that couple of extra bucks because it sounds so good and you've decided that you're worth it. The same thing is going to happen here. What I train people to do basically is to sell flower arrangements like they're the pork chop special. So I'm going to tell you the size of the design. I'm going to talk about the container. I'm going to talk about the palette before you ever hear anything about price. That's just an intelligent, friendlier, more polished, more professional way of dealing with customers. It makes a huge difference. So we really do want to emulate what the restaurant business does. This is one of the things that I want to talk about while we're looking at this wonderful Denny's logo. Often when I am at a store, if time permits, I will grab a few phone calls or I'll wait on customers as they come into the store. And inevitably, the people at the shop will compliment me. They'll say something to the effect of, "Oh, wow, you sound so good, and that was great." And of course, I, like everybody, enjoys being complimented. But I get a little antsy about it because I'll say to them, "Well, what is it that I did so amazing? What was it that was so special?" I really did nothing more than what I just taught you. I used the same charts. I used the same approach. But here's what it comes down to. And this, again, sounds a little wacky, but just humor me because it works like a charm. Essentially, what I do when I'm talking to a customer is I sound like I'm with my friends having breakfast at Denny's. So think about it. If we were sitting together at a table at Denny's, I'd lean over and I'd say, "Hey, would you pass the syrup?" Or I'd ask you, "Hey, are you going to finish that bacon?" That's how I talk to a customer. Meaning, I'm going to say to him, "Oh, congratulations. Is this your first grandchild? That's great news. Well, here's what I recommend. Why don't we send your daughter a really special arrangement? We've got some beautiful flowers today. I can design one in her favorite color, maybe a large design she can place on a dining room table, and that's priced between $150 and $200. And because I present it to him in that comfortable, confident, casual manner, guess what? He buys it. I get at least 2 or 3 emails a week from flower shop owners who will say, "We haven't sold the 40 all week. We're selling 60s, 70s, and 80s. And these are the same tight, cranky, cheap customers that we had last week. They're spending the money and they're thanking us for it." And what's changed? It's not that the staff became aggressive. To the contrary, they just sounded more relaxed. They sounded more interested, and customers respond to that. So after you get off this webinar today, if you're still working today or you start back at work tomorrow, just roll that around the back of your head. Think, how would I talk to my friends? What would be the tone and the pace? Now, I'm not saying to be too comfortable and to be too familiar, but it's the tone and the pace, that relaxed cadence to your voice. If you communicate to customers that way, what they're going to hear is that you're proud of where you work, you like the designs that the store puts out, and they're going to be comfortable giving you boatloads of cash. So that's the name of the game. So let's go to our next slide. I don't think we have any questions yet. Oh, we have one. What, pray tell, is the question?
Well, it looks like Guillermo had a question. He wanted to know, how do you get the card message without making customers feel pressured to buy? Can you please make an example?
The way that I do it is actually pretty smooth, and it's a good question. Thanks for bringing that up, because especially if you're not used to doing it this way, you could botch it. And it really is another example of it. If it's all in the tone, it's all in the delivery. So let me tell you the wrong way, and I'll give you an example of the right way. The wrong way would be you get the delivery information, and then you just say, "Okay, and card message." That's where the customer is going to say, "Oh, wait a minute. We haven't even talked about flowers yet." What I do that, again, is friendlier and smoother, and it puts the customer at ease, is I create a bridge between the delivery information and the card message. So I will either take the name of the recipient or the relationship between the sender and the recipient. So here's what I say. Instead of that kind of rough staccato and on the card message, I ask the customer, what would you like to tell your mom on the gift card? What would you like to say to Kathy on the card message? And it's almost like I'm holding a mic out in front of them. And I'm telling you from firsthand experience, 99 times out of 100, the customers just start babbling. And then you're golden because you're building your case file. Now you know where it's going. Now you know why it's going. So you've got all this empirical information so you can make an appropriate professional suggestion. So hopefully that answers your question. You can give it a shot. It looks like we might have one other question.
Yes, Jim wants to know, when you make price suggestions, do you start high? If so, if you've gone over their amount, how do you recover from the no from the customer?
This is something that I get into in a lot more detail on site, but what I would say essentially is I don't start high, I don't start low, I start what's appropriate. And that probably is the biggest challenge we have in the industry, because theoretically somebody can come into your store and spend $10 and be happy, or spend $110 and be happy. So when it does happen that I suggest an item at a price point that doesn't make the customer happy, as I said when we started, no is not a bad thing. No is just, oh, I made a mistake, so let me choose another option. So basically when the customer says, no, I don't want to spend that much, there's a chart that I've developed that I just take them to the next size lower. So I talk about the color scheme, we talk about the next size, and the customer 99 times out of 100 is going to go with that. It makes it very smooth and comfortable and easy for them. Okay, I'm going to keep on going, and let's talk about the slide that you see on the screen now. And I chose this one as a way of communicating visually the idea that we need to connect to customers. I think about it that if I were asked, what are the 2 or 3 biggest mistakes that every flower shop makes, by far this would be one of the biggest ones, aside from the obvious underselling and underserving, and that is we don't connect to customers. It's painful and it's embarrassing. Every week when I'm at a flower shop, part of my on-site training involves calling another local flower shop on speakerphone. The idea is I want to show you, the staff that I've just taken through this whole process, how bad it sounds when somebody does it the old-fashioned way. So here's what happens. My setup is I explain to the staff at the store where I'm training, we're going to call your competitor, we're going to do it on speakerphone, we'll critique it afterwards from a professional standpoint, because this isn't, we're not picking on somebody, we're just dissecting what they did. But what I tell that person at the other shop is this, and I want you to think about, as I'm saying this, what you might have suggested to me today. I say, hi, this is Mr. Blah, 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 and I'm calling from New York City. My sister is the head of HR at the XYZ hospital down the street, and I need to send some flowers. Then we kind of go back and forth, and then I essentially tell them that she's turning 30. It's the end of the world. I even joke it's going to be on the local news, hoping to get a response. I go on to say that unfortunately I've got to go to China on a business trip, so I'm not going to be able to be there to celebrate her birthday. So I want their help. I want to send something. I really don't know what I want to send. So essentially, I'm saying to them, hey, here's my Black American Express card. Knock yourself out. I will choose whatever you want to tell me to choose. When they ask me inevitably how much you want to spend, I'll waffle on that, and I'll say, you know what, I've never used your store before. I have no idea of how your sizes and prices work. And then this is going to be no surprise, and I hope some of you are turning red, recognizing that you would do the same thing. I get hit with well, arrangements start at. And yes, I get offered a $35 arrangement, even after that build-up. My point is this, that I literally go out on a limb. I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, and I tell the person my whole sob story, that here's somebody special in my life is having a milestone birthday, I can't be there, and I'm literally relying on this person to give me guidance so the shop can create a design that can be there in my place. I get nothing. I don't get, oh, gosh, wait till she turns 40. She thinks 30 is bad. I don't get, oh, my gosh, I can't even imagine turning 30. I'm still in college. Is she okay with it? I don't get, oh, gosh, you're such a good brother. Don't worry, you've called the best flower shop in town. We're going to send her an amazing gift. I get nothing. I'm telling you, I get nothing. And everybody in the training session is looking at me with their mouth agape, but no response. And I'm not saying that I'm making these calls on February 13th. I'm doing this on a slow Wednesday in June. I'm doing this when there's no reason that somebody couldn't connect with me. And for clarity, I'm not asking that person to start, blowing whistles and doing jumping jacks because it's her 30th birthday. All that I'm asking them to do is acknowledge how important this call is. Here's what I also tell the people at the store before I make the call. I say, okay, I'm going to give them this scenario that arguably should be at least $150, $200 order, bare minimum. Because you think 30 roses, that's $150 to $175 minimum. I tell them, and it's scary the way my predictions always come true, I tell them, even though I'm going to call the shop and beg and plead my case, the way that the person at the other store is going to handle it is though I said to them this. Hi, yeah, this is Mr. Customer, and I need to send some flowers. My neighbor's cat got run over this morning. In my opinion, hopefully you agree, there's a huge difference between a sibling's 30th birthday and a flat cat, but nobody recognizes it. So think about how are you connecting to customers. And if you're not connecting now, you need to. For example, somebody wants to send flowers for a funeral. If they let you know right off the bat that it was a family member that died, tell them, I'm sorry for your loss. Somebody says, I want to send some flowers to somebody in the hospital. You just had a baby. Oh, how exciting. Is this her first baby? Sound like you're interested. Sound like you're engaged. If you do that, the customer is going to feel more comfortable. The customer who is more comfortable will usually, typically, spend more money. And even if they don't, you're going to make the shopping experience more memorable for them, and they're going to come back. They're going to recommend your store to their friends and family. They're going to come back. So think about how you're connecting or not connecting with customers and make sure you adjust that situation. Now the screen, the chart that's on the screen now is a portion, because you see all the blank lines. It's a portion of an entire dictionary of professional language that I share with the staff. And this language is just as important as all of the other elements of selling and serving better that we've been talking about. And language is a big factor in how we perceive a company or a product. And the best example I can give is that you will never, ever, ever pull into a Lexus dealership and see used cars. You'll see pre-owned cars. They still had somebody's butt sit in the seat for 5 years, and they've got 60,000 miles on them, but they're pre-owned because that sounds better. It sounds richer. So in turn, that's what I'm giving you here. I hear florists complain all the time about grocery stores, about online florists, about direct shippers. I hear all this complaining, but let's take a look at what we're doing every day. And if we sound lackluster, if we don't sound polished, if we don't sound professional, we're actually going to drive the customers away. So everything that's in the left column is what flower shops say all the time now. Everything on the right column is what I say and the shops that I've trained say. And I'll go through these point by point. I'll give you a little dollop of psychology with each one, and hopefully you're going to understand that this language is not hoity, it's not pretentious, it's language that should feel and fit comfortably in your mouth and that you can start using right away. So first and foremost, you do the laundry, you make a shopping list. But thank God, the only reason someone's coming to your store instead of a grocery store or shopping elsewhere is because they want to buy your creative talent. Remind them of that. Tell them you're going to create an arrangement for them. You're going to design a fruit and gourmet basket for you. You possess a unique skill set that they don't, and they need to pay for that. The next one is beyond insane. A nice size is right up there with the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. It's a myth. It doesn't exist. It's actually it's poor grammar. It doesn't make any sense. But here's what happens. I bet if I called any of your stores today and I said I want to spend $60 and I asked you, is that going to be a nice size? Without batting an eye, you say, oh yeah, it's going to be a nice size. So think about that horrible service you just did to me. You led me to believe that arrangement's going to be maybe 2 or 3 feet tall, because my idea of a quote-unquote nice size is probably very different than yours. So what happens? I'm expecting a 3-foot tall arrangement, and then your store designs a beautiful 1.5-foot arrangement, and it's wonderfully gift wrapped, it's delivered on time, the card message is accurate, everything is taken care of, but I call and complain. So to make an insane situation worse, I then say to you, oh, gosh, I talked to that girl last week, and I even asked her, is this going to be a nice size? And she told me to be a nice size. And you're kind of left there going like, blah, 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 because you've got nothing to back that up. There is no such thing as a nice size. There's no ruler that measures nice. So what I teach is a process of giving a relative size, short of saying inches and feet. We don't want to get that specific because we're not selling a manufactured item. It's a handcrafted design. But I give them at least a reference, and I gave you one sample here. So I might say to a customer who asks me, if I spend $45, is that going to be a nice size? If at that particular shop that landed in the small category, I would come back and I would tell him enthusiastically, well, actually, that's going to be our beautiful small arrangement. That one's perfect for a desk. We'll fill it with wonderful garden flowers and rich autumn colors, blah, blah, blah. So he knows what he's getting. The next one is nice. Nice is boring. Who cares about nice? Beautiful is better. What I like about beautiful is that it's not tied to a price point. So if I have a customer who's ordering a $10 bud vase and he asks me, is that going to look nice? You know, I get to tell him, it's going to be beautiful. Your mom's going to love it. If I have a guy spending $300 on his wedding anniversary flowers, and he asks me, that's going to be nice, isn't it? You know, I tell him, it's going to be beautiful. Your wife's going to love it. And they both feel great. So beautiful is that one adjective that you can use year-round for every type of design, every price point. It makes every customer feel good about their shopping experience. Okay, the next one, with the $34.99. That in itself is probably a whole webinar to talk about the pricing. I personally think the $99, $95 stuff is just junk and crap, and I would never use it in a flower shop. However, I'm well aware that it's all over the web. Lots of stores do price their products that way. So let's take all these changes in baby steps. What I want you to start with is, at least on the phone, when you're selling an open order, use rounded numbers. They're easier to say. They're easier to hear. You're talking to customers all the time now on cell phones. And if you're saying $34.99, $59.99, it sounds like you're working at a hog auction. Tell them instead it's $35 to $55. Smoother, more comfortable, more polished, more professional. My next point is filler. And filler goes in hot dogs and meatloaf. It has nothing to do with the flower business. And accent flower is what you're going to put into an arrangement. And that's my umbrella term for everything from Queen Anne's lace and baby's breath to Genestra, Caspia. They all fall under that umbrella term. Our next point is nice mix. When I hear that somebody says, oh, we have a nice mix, I think, oh, good. Clearly you're going to make cookies or cupcakes, because that has nothing to do with flowers. What goes in your arrangement is beautiful garden flowers. So listen to this for a before and after. If I called your store today, I'd be told, oh, we can do a nice cherry mix for you for $34.99. Tomorrow, what you should be telling a customer is, we'll create a beautiful small vase arrangement for you, filled with wonderful garden flowers and rich autumn colors. That's priced from $35 to $55. That B sounds a heck of a lot better than an A. Kicker is it's the same price. It's just the B version sounds polished, professional, and it makes the customer feel comfortable and confident about the fact that he's dealing with a professional. Designer's choice is a horrible, hateful piece of vocabulary. Don't use it anymore because all it does is cause problems. When you write designer's choice on the order, you run the risk of your designer using colors or flowers that the sender or the recipient doesn't like. Furthermore, when you write designer's choice on an order, what inevitably will happen, and you've all been there, is the opposite. The designer creates an arrangement that the sender loves. He loves it so much that he calls you back a month later. He tells you he wants to send it again. So when you pull that up on the screen to duplicate it, what does it say? Designer's choice. Duh. So you're kind of left out in the cold. So the antidote is tell them what you're using now. So right now, we're in autumn. So use that as your default. When they're kind of ambivalent about the colors, just let them know. Great, we'll take good care of it for you. I just want to let you know that we're using autumn colors right now. You still might say, that's fine, whatever, but at least you have something right on the order. So if there's a question about the content, he wants to duplicate it, you have some information to work with. A wire order is just unnecessary lingo. Whether the order is being delivered next door or 1,000 miles from your store, treat it as though it's the same. Time and again, I call flower shops. It's so funny to hear. I'll simply say, yeah, I need to send some flowers out of town. And it's like the person's voice and whole demeanor changes. And here's what I get hit with. Oh, so you want to send a wire order. Well, we do have a $35.99 minimum, and there is an $8.50 service charge, and I'm not sure what the flower shop's going to have. So I would think, okay, what's that number for edible arrangements? I wouldn't want to order flowers. Think about the message you're giving to a customer. Yes, you're probably charging a service fee, but what is it? It's a service. You're giving them a service. If they ask what's that service fee for, let them know. What that service fee is going to cover is us working with or sending your order to our preferred FTD florist in that town or our favorite FTD florist in that city. It's going to be in great hands. It's going to get the same care and attention and a guarantee as though we were delivering it ourselves. That's what the customers want to hear, and then whether you're charging $7, $8, $10, $12 for a service fee, they don't care. They're going to pay it. It's all in how you deliver it to them. As soon as you tell a customer that an item is expensive, what you told him is, yeah, I saw what you pulled up, and I saw that baby blue Pinto out there, and I don't think you can afford it. So be careful of the way you describe items. Tell them instead, when you know that they're asking for an item that's at a higher price point, buffer it with the word premium. For example, customer says, oh, I want to send my wife a big arrangement filled with peonies. That's her favorite flower. How much is that going to cost? I'd find out how much they cost, and I'd come back, and I'd say to him, sir, that's a great choice. That arrangement is going to look and smell wonderful. Peonies are one of our premium flowers, so depending on how much of a splash you want to make, I'd recommend spending between $2 and $2.50. Now, he might have to grab his EpiPen because of the price, but that's his decision whether or not to spend that money. I haven't predetermined that. I didn't say to him, oh, well, you know what, those are kind of expensive. Those are about $12 to $15 a stem. And then what goes through his mind? He thinks, gosh, well, maybe I shouldn't spend that much money, or maybe I can go and get them wholesale myself, or I can find them somewhere else. Now, the flip of that is inexpensive. Customers ask you, well, what's going to be in that $35 range? Is it going to be all those cheap flowers? I got news for you, buddy. You spend $35, you ain't getting all hydrangea, lilac, and peonies, is what goes through my head. What do I say to a customer is different. What I tell them is, well, in one of our $35 arrangements, we'll use some of our standard or basic garden flowers, such as wonderful carnations, beautiful Peruvian lilies, and list what they're going to use. If you call a carnation a standard or basic garden flower, you elevate its status. Remember, it's not a used Lexus, it's pre-owned. Think about also how important your voice is in the equation. We talked earlier about thinking about you're hanging out at Denny's, you're having breakfast with your buddies, and that's the kind of tone and pace and cadence. It's also important, too, that you don't raise your voice along with the prices. Makes me nuts. I hear this all the time. So this is a typical scenario. I call your store. How much are your arrangements? You start rattling off a bunch of prices, again, like you're working the tables in Vegas. You tell me, oh, 40, 45, 55, 55, 65, 65, 75, 85. The only reason I'm never going to buy a $125 arrangement from you is because by the time you get there, you sound like a dog whistle. I can't even hear the price. So whether I'm saying 30 to 50 or 150 to 200, they sound the same. and I'm just communicating and conveying my comfort and my professionalism to the customer with my voice. Starting today, miraculously, you will never have a problem at your store again. So what's going to happen is you now have questions instead of problems. Now that question might be, our driver's been driving around for 3 hours and he can't find your grandma's house. The question might be, we tried to run your credit card 3 times and it keeps bouncing, but it's never a problem. So think about what happens, and I hear this constantly. What we say to the customer is, oh, is there a number I can reach you in case I have a problem with the order? If I were that customer, I'd think, well, do you always have problems with your orders? Do you anticipate a problem with my order? So you're planting a negative seed. Don't do that. Next point is about delivery. And sadly, most flower shops still are not charging enough for delivery. I work with a flower shop here in Illinois on Monday, and they're charging $8, and we said, no, we got to raise it to $10. Nobody's going to say boo. $10 is nothing. $10 is something in your mind. You make it up into like a deal breaker, and it doesn't have to be. But you sabotage the sales, because here's what happens. Customer calls your store, and he asks, do you charge for delivery? You say, yes, we charge $10 depending on where it's going, and then you shut up, and he just clobbers you. Oh, no, that's ridiculous. I'm not paying that. It's just going down the street. You set yourself up for that. So whether the shop where I'm working charges $7, $10, some charge $12. I worked with one in Michigan last week. They charge $15 for local delivery. Doesn't matter. I say the same thing to a customer. I don't leave myself open for an argument. What I say to the customer is this: oh, we charge just $12 for delivery. Where do you want to send the flowers? So think about how powerful that word just is. It carries a lot of weight. Equally important is the timing. I don't give them time to react. I don't ask them, is that okay, either directly with language or by virtue of leaving a big gap. I just roll right on with the order. The assumption is if you're asking about delivery, you need to get something delivered, so I make an assumptive close. Again, we charge just $12 for delivery. Where do you want to send the flowers today? And I take the order. Last point that I want to throw out to you to think about is the crazy, insane way we price things. If you were to go into Home Depot, let's say you're looking for a lawnmower. They're doing an end-of-season sale. So you find one that you like, but there's no price tag. So you grab somebody who has a price gun, and you ask him, can you tell me how much this is? Do you think he's going to say, oh, yeah, that one's around $200? I've yet to see an around $200 bill. It's insane, but we do it to customers all the time. Our arrangements are around $35. Our arrangements start at $35. Our dish gardens start from, no, give me a price range. Tell me their price between A and B. And in my complete training program, we get into the whole process of what you do when you give them the price range, how to make all of those into $55 sales. It's a very simple, easy approach, but you've got to give them a price range. Do not tell them they start at, they're from, they're around, or about. It's poor service. It really doesn't help the situation. So we're going to leave the vocabulary, and we're back to food. I don't have a tapeworm, but it's all about how food and flowers are closely related. So when I go to a flower shop, one of the things that we tackle in my training is selling all of the products that you sell. So we talk about funerals, we talk about roses, we talk about fruit and gourmet baskets, and inevitably we talk about add-ons. And as you see at the top of this list, my term for add-on is a finishing touch. That's my umbrella term that covers chocolates, stuffed animals, balloons, all the other additional items that we sell. And it's a great source for revenue. But let me explain why you're looking at that big fat cheeseburger. The reason is this, and it has to do with what I've said here, the number one ridiculous excuse I hear from people for not selling finishing touches. The reason I'm showing you that is that I hate cheese. So think about that for a minute. I hate cheese, okay? So I get a job at Burger King. I'm working lunch shift. You come in, you're hungry, you want to get a Whopper. You come to the counter. I'm friendly, just like you're friendly in the flower shop. And you say to me, yeah, can I have a large Coke and a Whopper with cheese? How would you feel if I made a face and I said, really? you want cheese on that? Are you sure? You can be angry. He's like, yeah, I want cheese on it. If you're not going to give it to me, get your manager. And in all likelihood, that would probably be my last day of work at Burger King. Carry that thought process over into what you tell me all the time. When I ask, well, how are you collectively and individually at selling finishing touches? Oh, I hate balloons. Really? FYI, I hate balloons too. I hate them as much as I hate cheese, but I sell the crap out of them. My little sister had a birthday yesterday. I called my personal florist in Connecticut. I didn't order balloons, but if I were to pick up the phone today and take an order from a customer, I would give him or her the opportunity to buy them. I'm not afraid of them saying no. I also know that if somebody's spending $75 on an arrangement for his daughter, he's not going to cancel the deal or hang up on me because I offer him a $5 balloon. It just doesn't work that way. I've never, ever heard that happen, yet we're terrified to offer these to a customer. So let's talk about another ridiculous excuse. That was the number one. This is number two. Here's number two. What will happen is I will be at a flower shop, either standing next to somebody or listening to them take a call, and they're waiting on a customer who is ordering flowers for a birthday. So it's obvious to me from either the conversation or what I see in the card message or both. Yet I'm waiting for the person to offer the customer a balloon, a stuffed animal, some kind of additional item, and it doesn't happen. So I wait and I wait and I wait. When we're done, I'll go and I'll ask the person, hey, any particular reason why you didn't offer her a balloon? And here's what I get. Yeah, I could just tell. I could just tell she didn't want one. I say, oh, really? So you must have a crystal ball or something that enables you to see before they even call her, before they come into the store, who's going to order a box of chocolates and who's going to not like balloons. It's crazy. You don't have that ball, that crystal ball, so stop it. Give them a chance to buy it. The worst thing they're going to say is no. And if you think about it, in all seriousness, it's actually too much work to do it that way. If you're going to sit there and try to second guess and wonder and judge and size up a customer, it's ridiculous. You're profiling. Stop wasting your time. If it's appropriate, give them a chance to buy a balloon, a stuffed animal, whatever the additional items are that you sell. Now, to make it easier, what I'm going to do is give you a recipe. And here are the three simple steps in my recipe. The first thing you need to do is make a bridge. We talked earlier about how if you use your language and your voice correctly, you can have a very smooth, comfortable bridge from the delivery information into the card message. You can do the same thing here. You can have a smooth, comfortable bridge into the finishing touch. So after I've sold you the vase arrangement for your mom's birthday, and that's a done deal, all the information is in the computer, I then go for the finishing touch. And what I'll say to you is, as a finishing touch, we can attach or include, and just think about how the words finishing touch land on your ear. It sounds as though you need it. It sounds like that's that one extra element, that one final piece that will really make the whole gift coalesce. So I say as a finishing touch, we can attach or include, and then I talk about a specific item. I don't talk about a generic balloon. I don't say a stuffed animal. I talk about a happy birthday balloon. And not just a happy birthday balloon on your mom's flowers. So again, I'm using language to paint a picture, to give the customer a visual idea of what they're going to get and how it's going to look and how they can spend their money or more of their money at my store. And then the last part is the easiest, and it's so incredibly rare that I hear this done. I tell you how much it costs. Like, what's the biggie? And I'll tell you literally, they're just $5. So let me give you the way it's typically done and the way you need to do it. If I'm lucky enough, and it's probably only 1 out of 10 calls, that I even get offered balloons, and I'm talking about when I use that scenario I mentioned where it's my sister's 30th birthday. Even with a big buildup like that, it's rare that I get offered balloons. But here's what I'll typically get. Kind of at the end of the call, I'll get, oh yeah, did you want a balloon stuffed animal box chocolates? Like, what? What was that? Oh, balloon stuffed animal box chocolates. Now, think about the way you just torture the customer again. Over the course of probably about a second, this is what he or she processes. Well, I think they were just talking about a balloon, a stuffed animal, or a box of chocolates, but I wonder if it's latex balloons, because she's got latex allergies. Yeah, one of the shiny ones would be better. And chocolates is, I don't know, is it good chocolate? Is it some like mediocre chocolate from Walgreens? And how much is it? Nah, that's okay. That all happens in the course of about a nanosecond. The customer just says no. But my approach is easier, smoother, more polished, and it makes the customer feel comfortable. So again, putting it all together, I tell the customer, oh yeah, and as a finishing touch, I can attach a happy birthday balloon to your mom's flowers for just $5. Whether they say yes, whether they say no, doesn't matter. I don't take it personally, but I can tell you that if you offer them enough, they will buy them. Okay, so this, for those of you not familiar with it, is a copy of the October issue of my column in Floral Management Magazine. And this is a great reason for you to join SAF or subscribe to this magazine if you don't, because this is a good tool to reinforce strong customer service and sales methodologies every month. So the way that it works, and I'm just going to kind of give you a thumbnail sketch of this right now, is I call a flower shop, and I'll call a big city, I'll call a little town, I'll call a new flower shop, I'll call a well-established one, and I give them a different scenario every month. And essentially I'm saying, here is my need, this is my desire, I'm not really hung up on the money, I'm going to leave that up to you. So even when they ask how much they want to spend, I dance around the subject. So what you get is a little bit of the dialogue, the kind of back and forth between the person who answered the phone and me. Then I analyze the call. So I talk about, what went well, what didn't, and then what we talk about is, okay, how can you change it? How can you avoid continuing to make these same mistakes at your shop? So this is pretty timely. We're going to talk about 3 ways that you can improve your Thanksgiving sales. I get very frustrated because I talk to customers about this, customers meaning you, flower shop owners, and when I talk about Thanksgiving, the response is, oh, Thanksgiving's no big deal. Well, duh, if you've got that kind of asleep on your feet approach, it's not going to be a big deal. It's an opportunity. And if you're not jazzed up about it, if you're not making efforts to improve your sales, all you're doing is helping your competition. So think about these 3 points. Number 1, don't just sell a standard centerpiece. That's what the grocery stores do. You need to engage your customer in conversation, find out what the shape is of their table, talk about how many people are going to be sitting there, find out how they're going to use the arrangement, listen for opportunities to sell them a different design style, to sell them a bigger arrangement. The second point, number 2, is use the new technique you just learned. Here's your opportunity to sell finishing touches. So for Thanksgiving, one finishing touch could be candles. And I ask flower shop owners, so what do you do for Thanksgiving? What do you do with candles? Do you include them? Do you charge extra? Oh, we just include them. So what do you charge them? Oh, we don't charge. Oh, okay, so you've got a candle bush in the backyard. You just cut the candles off for free. Do you hear how silly that sounds, that they're for free? They're not free. Nothing in life is free. Even if you've got to go to Target or CVS and pay retail for these, $1 a pop for tapers, sell them for $5. It's convenience. If you can put those 2 candles in, and that means that the customer or the recipient doesn't have to go out and buy the candles for themselves, it's a convenience. People pay for convenience. So put together a couple of finishing touch options for your customers now in October and get prepared for Thanksgiving. Finally, and this is probably the most exciting one because this is essentially a process I learned where I was working in New York, is we tend to think of Thanksgiving one-dimensionally. We think of it as just a centerpiece, and you shouldn't, because what happens at Thanksgiving? Do you just open your front door, your family stampedes into the living room, chow down, and they leave? No, I've never seen that happen. Typically what happens is your family comes in and they hang out. They go in the living room, they go and chat with mom in the kitchen and try to grab a piece of pumpkin pie, they're using the bathroom. So why not decorate the whole house? So here's what I do. When I've got you on the phone or you're standing in front of me in the store, once I sell you the centerpiece, I then basically plant the seed in your head about decorating your house. and I'll ask, oh, you're having 10 people at your house. Have you thought about maybe an arrangement in that same color scheme to place on the coffee table in the living room? I'll maybe go on to say, a lot of customers having a big group like yours will often order a few small bud vases to place in the bathrooms. Oh, that's a great idea. So even if the customer doesn't buy it, they like the fact that you're listening to them. They like the fact that you're connecting, that you're tuned into them, and they may buy it on a future purchase. So think about that. Think outside the box, and this is a way theoretically for you to double or even triple some of your Thanksgiving sales. But I'm telling you right now, they ain't going to buy it if you don't offer it to them. It's just the name of the game. This is a poster that most of you probably have already hung up. And I want to talk about how you can make more money with these arrangements. Often when I visit a flower shop, I see the posters hanging up, and it's sloppy. Somebody's taken a magic marker and handwritten one sloppy old price on there. In this day and age, you've all got computers. You're all attending this webinar, so in all likelihood, you've got Microsoft Word or some kind of word processing program. Make a nice little sign. Put it on the poster. Put the price range. Don't give a single price. Put the price range. Now, what I did for our webinar today is I took the exact prices off the FTD website. But obviously, there's no cap on this. You can have this from $49.99 to $79.99 or $89.99. So when the customer comes in, they're looking at this. They're going to ask you, well, how much is it, or what's the price? And you can tell them we're offering that to you in a wide range of prices. As we get toward the higher end, you can maybe point to this particular arrangement and let them know I can give you more roses, we can incorporate more lilies, and just have that real comfortable hanging out, having breakfast at Denny's type of conversation with them, educate them, and then surprise, surprise, they're going to pony up more money. What would have been $49.99 centerpieces, or you'll still get those, but those would be the exception. I promise you, the majority of them will be 59s, 69s, 79s, not because you pushed the customer, just because you educated them. You engaged in the conversation, you told them about their options and their choices. So as we're moving toward the end of the webinar, what I want to do before we hit our Q&A session is to talk about this exercise. Hopefully you had a chance to fill out this paperwork before today's webinar, because if you do it now, your perspective is very different, and the idea was to see how you were thinking beforehand. When I visit a flower shop, usually the staff is filling out about 6 to 9 of these scenarios, but because of our time constraints, I just picked the top 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the answers, and what I'm going to show you is how, using one of the sell by size charts that I bring to the store, you can answer all of these quickly and easily and thoroughly. Easier for you, easier for the customer. So the first scenario, pretty simple. Customer just saying, hey, if I spend $50, what will I get? It's easy. I take that dollar amount, I plug it into the chart, and then I just read the descriptions. So I would say to him, for example, well, for $50, we can create one of our beautiful small arrangements, which is perfect for a desk. Today we'll fill that with wonderful garden flowers and rich autumn colors. I can get it delivered by 4 o'clock for you. Short and sweet. I didn't have to ask him a single question. What I did, though, is I gave him a really good, thorough description. And here's the funny part. He will occasionally upsell himself. He'll come back to me and he'll ask, oh, really? Well, I was hoping to get something a little bit bigger. What if I spend another $20? Or how much is the next size going to cost? I didn't tell him he had to do that, but because I educated him better, he realized he wanted to create more of a splash. He wanted more of a presence. He realized that his $50 wouldn't go as far as he thought it would, so he'll pony up some more cash. The next scenario is pretty funny. I get a kick out of this because for some reason, I don't know if it has to do with the lighting, but when people in flower shops fill out this scenario B, they perceive that there's a dollar amount written on there, but there's nothing. There's no talk of a specific dollar amount. So what the customer has said is, yeah, I don't want to spend too much, but I want to get something nice. And if you think about it, nobody wants to spend too much, and of course we all want to get something nice. The best way to tackle this is not to do what you probably would do. It's not to talk about what your cheapest arrangement is. It's not to ask them how much they want to spend. I use my sell by size chart, and I start them off in the middle. And I'll tell the customer, well, here's what I'd recommend. How about we send one of our beautiful medium-size arrangements? That's a perfect size to be placed here. We fill it with wonderful garden flowers in this color scheme, and they know what they're getting. So if, for example, I said that arrangement is priced between $60 and $80, he might come back to me and say, oh, no, I don't want to go crazy. Let's keep it closer to 60. Think about that. 60 compared to 50 sounds like a bargain. You know, the other way that it might play out, and you've got to be prepared for this as a possible response, is the customer gets a little antsy, and the customer gets a little angry, a little testy, and they say, oh, no, that's ridiculous. I was thinking like $30, $35. What goes through my mind is, well, sir, I didn't reach through the phone and do a Vulcan mind meld with you, so I didn't realize that. My professional response to the customer is this. I say, perfect. For $35, this is what we can create. This is what we can design for you. And I explain that to them. But don't artificially limit this sale. Don't automatically start with a small amount. Finally, my personal favorite, the old, I want to get something showy and I want to spend $50. The way that I'm going to teach you to answer this is very different, because my answer would be identical if the customer said they want a showy arrangement and they've got a budget of $150. Here's the deal. I don't care what they want to spend. What I care about is what they want to get. And they've used a horrible, ambiguous adjective. So what you need to do is pull that out of the equation and hand it back to the customer. So starting today, no professional florist should ever say, type, write, tweet, text, scribble, think, whisper the word showy again. It's stupid. So here's what I do. I say to the customer, great, I can help you. First, let's talk about what you mean by showy, so I can understand what we're going to create for you. So I can give the designers, a better clue. Because showy can mean a million things. Showy can mean tall and airy. Showy can mean low and compact, but loud, vibrant colors. It's all over the map, and you run the risk of disappointing the customer if you don't clarify it. Furthermore, if he were or if she were to go on and describe an arrangement that clearly needed to be priced at $20 more, that wouldn't faze me in the slightest. I would simply say to her, we'd love to create that arrangement for you based on what you described, that size, those colors, those types of flowers. I would recommend a larger design, and I'd give her the price. But in that same breath, because I don't want to lose that $50 sale, I would acknowledge that, and I would double back, and I would say, and of course, using the $50 that you mentioned, because here I am connecting with the customer, I'm letting her know that I'm listening to her, this is what we can create for you. And then kind of let her go from there. And if she wants that bigger design, she'll cough up the extra $20. And if her budget is limited, she'll let you know, regardless of what she chooses, she's not going to be disappointed. What we're going to deliver on her behalf is exactly what she was expecting. That's the name of the game. So unfortunately, I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to turn this back to Janet, and if you have any questions, we're going to field those now.
Thank you so much, Tim. We appreciate you sharing so many great sales tips with us today. We are now open for questions. If you have a question, simply type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen. We will take the questions in the order that they are received. And it looks like we've got a question. And our first question is from Anna. She wants to know, what advice do you have for a florist that is trying to boost sales but does not have a lot of extra money to work with?
Well, I think that's what we've really been talking about for the past 90 minutes. Go back to that $100,000 bar, and this is an easy way to give yourself thousands of dollars a month in extra revenue by simply upgrading the way that you deal with customers, and you're going to find that there is hidden revenue in almost every sale. Listen to customers better, use your point of sale system better, meaning pay closer attention to your average sale figure, make sure that you're emailing them copies of receipts. Just run your business a little bit tighter, and realistically you can make an extra 5 to 10 grand a month conservatively.
All right. I don't see any other questions right now, but if you have any questions, again, just type your question in the question box on the upper right side of your screen, and we'll take the questions as they appear. But again, it looks like, Tim, you have once again done an excellent job of sharing a ton of great information and bowling everybody over with all of your great stuff.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. I'm glad that everybody was able to share their time this afternoon. I hope I made it worth your while and have you thinking on a new path. I want to take this last moment to just mention in a little bit more detail about further webinars that I'm doing through my own company. And you see the email address on here. That's the email to me at my company. That's the phone number to my company. My company is FloralStrategies, and for those of you not aware, I launched in January the very first monthly sales and customer service webinar series in the floral industry. And as an FTD member, you're going to get special rates on joining those. So send me an email, give me a call. I can fill you in on the details. We have our next webinar coming up on November 15th, and that's going to be called Christmas Boot Camp.
All right, it looks like we do have a couple more questions now, Tim. Janice wants to know, what do we say to a customer that wants to send flowers out of town and doesn't want to pay the service charge and decides to call the flower shop directly?
Well, I would have to listen to the call, but I would imagine that you were probably apologetic about the service charge, or you mentioned the service charge up front like we talked earlier. But nevertheless, let's say you didn't and you tuck it into the end and the customer goes ballistic. What you need to do is not apologize for the service charge, but educate them. And I've been in the situation, and I'll explain to the customer, we charge that fee because it enables us or gives us the opportunity to work with our preferred florist. When we hang up, I'm going to get the order to them. They're going to take wonderful care of it for you. And bear in mind that that order is going to be fully protected by our guarantee. So what I'm kind of saying in a left-handed way is, yeah, you can go online, you can Google a shop, you can try to send the order on your own, but if something goes south, if your grandma gets a blue carnation poodle, don't come yelping at us.
All right, and it looks like Jackie has a situation and with a question. She said a customer placed an order for delivery. They attempted to deliver the flowers, but the recipient was not home. The customer then came and picked them up and expected a refund of the delivery charge. She told her that the delivery charge was for a service that they had performed for her, and Jackie wants to know, was she correct in not refunding the delivery charge?
I understand from a business owner standpoint where you're coming from, but it's one of those situations where what I would have done is I would have said the same thing that you've said and educate the customer. So theoretically, her feeling is, hey, I paid you for this, they didn't get it delivered. You know that you spent your time and energy and employees' time and gas delivering them. So what I would say to her is that exactly the line that you used, then go back and say, we value your business, so as a courtesy, I'm going to waive it this one time. So you're kind of letting her know that, yes, because you're bringing it forward to us, we're going to do it, but the reality is if we have to deliver, we have to go back 2 or 3 times, we do need to charge you for it in the future. And I think that's the best of both worlds.
All right, and Bob wants to know, are we lazy salespeople? He said, what are the standard excuses for not asking for more money?
Oh, Bob, you hit me with this bomb at 3 minutes to go. I wouldn't say lazy, because everybody that I meet every week is very friendly, and they like their job, and they're passionate about it, or they wouldn't be still working in the flower shop 10, 15, 20 years out. I think what it comes down to is this. There's no real standard for sales and service in our industry, and that's why I welcome the opportunity for FTD to let me share some of my methodology with you. And I think furthermore, we sell from our own pockets. We're afraid of rejection, but I get the most joy and I get the most sense of fulfillment when I work at a flower shop. And typically what happens is I divide the staff into two groups. We do a morning session and an afternoon session. When that morning session is done, inevitably somebody will come to me with an ear-to-ear smile, and they'll say, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. They're spending 80, 90, $100, and they're thanking me for it." And basically it's now that they've been empowered, they've got the tools to make these bigger sales. So the sales are there. We just need to teach your staff how to identify them and how to take them.
All right, and Jim has another question. He wants to know, Tim, if you think that incentives are a good way to get salespeople to get those finishing touches, and do you have an example of an incentive?
I think incentives are great, and what I tell people all the time is I will knock you out of the way to grab a nickel on the sidewalk. You know, money motivates. And for those of you who feel differently, you know, what I encounter sometimes is florists will say, "Oh, well, this is ridiculous. Why do I have to pay them for their job? I'm already paying them anyway. Why do I have to pay them extra?" Money motivates. So here's the deal. Depending on the kind of technology you're using, depending on what the administration is like in your store, there are lots of different ways to integrate incentives into the mix. And what I'd recommend is, you know, give me a call or send me an email. We can talk about it in further detail. But one that I can share with you right now, a very simple one, is if you're not selling balloons, implement a plan. Tell everybody that they're going to get 50 cents every time they sell a balloon. And you could give everybody a cheat sheet or just have a master cheat sheet on the wall that they write the order number down, and at the end of the month you're going to double check that against the system. So it's kind of on a quasi honor system, but you're still going to double check it and then pay it out. And I guarantee you you're going to be refilling your helium tank by the end of next week.
All right. Well, it looks like we are out of questions for today. If anybody does have any questions that you think of afterwards, of course, send an email to Tim at FloralStrategies@yahoo.com. And we would like to thank everyone today for attending today's webinar. If you missed a portion of the webinar or would like to listen to it again, a replay will be available on FTD University. An email will be sent to you when everything is available for you to view. The next FTD e-learning workshop is scheduled for Tuesday, December 6th. Art Conforti with Beneva Solutions will be sharing ways to take control of your business. Registration is now available at FTD.com. Just click on the FTD e-learning workshop logo on the right side of the home page. Again, thank you, Tim, for sharing such great sales tips as we prepare for the upcoming holidays.